Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from this month's sponsor, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
If you're wondering about what you can do if you find yourself in an FCPA compliance action, check out the FCPA Survival Guide. It's my latest book. It's sponsored by Ethico, and in it, I take up and write the top 10 things you can do to reduce your overall fine and penalty if you find yourself in an FCPA enforcement action. So check out the FCPA Survival Guide. The Daily Compliance News for February 5, 2025, Keeping an Eye on Gatekeepers edition. This story comes to us from the Regulatory Review, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, where 2 authors believe that external compliance gatekeepers need to have not only more eyeballs on them, but greater liability as well. And they believe that outside consultants, whether from law firms or accounting firms, tend to perform regulatory compliance functions, which serve as a bulwark against corporate wrongdoing, but do so with no liability to them. Well, they're right. And frankly, that's the way it should be, because compliance is a non-delegable duty, and companies should always be on the hook. Next up, in a difficult or perhaps even troubling story, Fay Vincent, who passed away this weekend, gave a final warning to Major League Baseball about gambling, and that warning was, gambling always leads to corruption. He said that the bringing on of legalized gambling in America is the biggest sports event in baseball for the past 100 years, even bigger than Jackie Robinson. He believed that gambling will destroy the integrity of the game, and it's something that MLB needed to fight literally at all costs. And that leads us to our next story, which was that this week, Major League Baseball has fired and upheld the disciplinary process for former umpire Pat Hoberg for having shared betting accounts with a friend. Now, no evidence that Hoberg was involved in betting, at least betting on baseball, and he was widely regarded as the best ball strike umpire in the major leagues, but you can see his participation in this shared betting pool with a friend really had the appearance of impropriety and had to be dealt with. And our final story comes to us from not the compliance world, but the podcast world, where the Financial Times reports that Microsoft has poached 2 Google engineers who developed AI-generated apps for podcasting while at Google. So, Microsoft, if you're listening, if you want to poach me and the Compliance Podcast Network, give me a call. At the start of this podcast, the sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Well, Ethico has a great new offering this month for you, a toolkit for middle managers. This is something that you, as the compliance professional, can use to move your compliance program forward by giving middle managers the skills necessary to answer a call for speak up or when someone comes in their office and raises a concern. I can't think of a tool that will be more valuable for you in the current era of enforcement. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.